Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here. This one yet again based on one of your new suggestions. This one having to do with a fascinating topic involving a monster, if lack of a better term, from Native American mythology. In fact, when I was looking at the information associated with it, it goes back quite some time. There's very little chance, apparently, that it's out there to this day, but at least at a certain point, way back when in the past, it was definitely roaming around. In fact, it caused several hotels, several actual locations to close down, and there were tales of encounters with this very mysterious creature. I thought about putting this on the cryptids and monsters side, but then I realized, again, this is more of an urban legend because of the mythology associated with it and the fact that it could have been there, it could have not been. It's just open to debate as if it truly really was. It has a very unique name too. It's basically known as the flying head, but it has also other names associated with it, such as the big head or the great head, and you're looking at a representation of it now. So let's go ahead and let's share this information here about this urban legend. I'll try to give as much information possible, including its origins, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts and comments on it are. So here's essentially what the flying head is. For starters, physically, like the characteristics itself, it's basically down to the name itself. It's a giant head that flies around. Just think of it that way. In fact, it's been described as being larger than the average man when it comes to its size, even though it's just a head. In fact, it's probably mostly just a head with maybe some little feet as well. But otherwise, even with just having one portion of a body visible, in this case, the head predominantly being the largest thing, it still has a taller stature than your average man. It goes to show the warped descriptions associated with this thing. It also has been described as having this long, dark hair. It has these eyes that have been considered or quoted as being terrible eyes, and it has a very large mouth as well. It could be just a normal sized mouth when it comes to its proportions, but the idea again that the head is much larger than usual makes it have a large mouth with also razor sharp fangs. The reason for it is this: it flies around utilizing a set of bat wings. It actually comes from the side of its cheeks, since it doesn't have any other type of normal body of a man, like in this case with shoulders, a back and arms and so on. And it has at the very bottom of it these bird-like talons on its feet. So it uses its razor sharp teeth, it uses its talons, and it uses its wings to hunt people. It's considered actually cannibalistic. It absolutely loves enjoying eating people, and it's known to have an insatiable hunger. So it's always on the hunt, always trying to find people to eat. Once it eats someone, then it's moving on to the next person. Unknown if this is something where it has any kind of moral code, like it's only hunting bad people. I got the impression instead that it's basically hunting everything. So if you're a person, you happen to be out there, let's say in some foresty type area or who knows where, and you happen to come across this giant head, then you are in a bad set of circumstances, because you're going to be in a situation where this thing could absolutely cause your demise. Now, as far as the origins associated with it, this is why, again, I listed it on the urban legend side, because this set of origins falls down into more of being a story. It has that perfect sense of having, like, let's say, a folklore type story created who knows how far back. We're talking at least in the 1600s, even before that, when it comes to some of the earliest known encounters, at least written wise. But yeah, this is where it came from. Apparently, and this is something again that's tied to Native American mythology, because there's two prominent groups called the Iroquois and the Wyandots that were part of this mythology, and they were the ones that had spoken of this flying head and then how it came to be. But this is what they stated. In some unknown region, somewhere here in the Americas, but again, way back when it was Native American land, there was a very, very severe winter that occurred occurred in that land that killed off many things. It killed off many plants, which in turn caused a lot of the animals that ate the plants, such as the moose and the deer, to die off or move to other areas. And so some of the local natives there, Native Americans, were in a conundrum because they were not able to hunt. They were not able to fish as well because of the severe winter. And so there was a very large amount of famine that began happening in that area. It started to build and build to the point that a whole bunch of families began to die off. At that point, there became like a split when it came to that area in terms of the groups deciding what to do. The younger members of that tribe decided they wanted to go elsewhere. They wanted to migrate to another area, even with having some other tribes out there that could present some kind of hostile situations. They wanted to take that chance because why not, right? Here you have a situation where the local area was not getting any better when it came to the plants, when it came to the animals, and families were dying, and so they wanted to leave. They were willing to take that risk. But the older members of the community said no. They didn't want this. In fact, they pretty much forbid anyone from doing so, so much so that the younger ones actually went on a secret venture into an area, and they decided this is an area and somewhere nearby that would work, and so they came back and they told that information. This did not make the older members of the community happy because they again wanted to stay. In fact, so much so they even told the younger members that they were willing to die by inches, again giving you an idea about a slow death, than rather move anywhere else. They were not going to leave that land. And so what happened next, they gave the idea of this flying head its origin. Those younger members decided to kill the older members, and in fact they took the bodies themselves. I don't know if this was mainly to hide them, hide essentially what happened, or maybe they felt shame, something along those lines, but they decided to take it to a local lake, something along those lines, somewhere where there was a bit of a marsh of sorts. Like in other words, there was a body of water, then there was something else that would allow the bodies of these older members to be thrown in and then essentially be lost, and that way there would be no evidence of them. So they decided to take those bodies there, burn them beforehand, and then also decapitate them. But when that occurred, one of those younger members who was placing those items, placing the actual heads within some ropes, bounding them together, and then throwing them into that body of water, that person actually ended up dying along with them. Either way, though, that location was also marked by having an entity, something called the Master of Life. Someone might have to post a little bit more information on that to tell me what that is. But essentially, when that occurred, it was all those factors together. It was that supernatural area. It was the bodies, or the heads in this case, of those elders, and it included the death of that younger person of the community. All of it ended up creating almost like this amalgamation of this flying head, something that was resentful, something that was out for vengeance. It apparently came up with some bubbles and slime from that lake. This terrible monster was now created, and it was morphed into having those wings I was mentioning earlier, those talons, and so on, and then it went on the hunt. It started flying about and then trying to gain vengeance or just basically eat as much as it could, but it was there plaguing some of the local areas. I was mentioning earlier too about some of the impact that it had on a real life basis. It turns out later on this flying head must have been there for a while, because later on when that area now had more of a domesticated set of landmarks, like in this case hotels, some of the New Frontiers people must have gone there. They must have taken over that area, taken over that location, and they built some type of modern structures involving hotels. They built it on that area, and then this flying head mysteriously must have caused them to burn to the ground as well. So there's that notion too. There was another one involving a woman, someone that was there just eating acorns within her home, and she was there at a lodge just minding her own business, and this flying head came to that location wanting to eat her, but then it saw either these acorns and thinking that it in turn was something it could eat. And so it in turn tried to eat those acorns, but it ended up burning really, really badly because of it. It had no idea, I guess, of those concepts. And then the other notion is that it in turn misidentified the woman as eating these acorns as if she was eating live coals. And so it must have thought to itself that this was something that was a little bit more scarier than it could handle, so ended up flying away. But either way, though, it terrified that location for some time, and then the flying head was gone, not to be seen again. No other versions of it exists, at least in modern day times. No other encounters as well. That doesn't mean, again, that something could happen in the future, but that's at least some of the folklore, mythology, and urban legend status associated with this flying head. So what do you guys think? Let me know about the comments below. Fascinating stuff, right? This is almost like a monster born of lore, something where it's a tragic set of circumstances leading to this thing almost from hell coming out of the ground itself, and then having this vengeful task of eating everything around it. And that's essentially what the flying head is. But if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, please post those comments below. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.